What is the actual issue? You know, when Trump owns every issue 80-20 by almost every metric, from the economy to crime to immigration, where are you? The high ground maneuver of common sense has relegated it into more extreme measures. Ask Obama, okay.
I think what pulls it all together is that no one person did any.
So he's sitting around on a June Thursday thinking about himself and his glory days. And to your point, Smug, I'm starting to warm up to Michelle Obama's POV. I mean, like, what does he do?
Legacy myths don't stand a chance when Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly team up. They didn't just challenge Barack Obama, they shredded the curtain of charisma to expose the contradictions underneath. From his celebrity grandstanding to the climate sermons delivered between private jet rides, nothing was safe. Gutfeld unleashed with biting sarcasm, while Kelly carved through the spin with surgical precision. What followed wasn't a debate, it was a demolition. When the smoke cleared, only the echo of his rehearsed charm remained.
Of course, rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men. Terrible that you would applaud that.
I have no doubt you do, because you do it publicly whenever you can. You. When was the last time you said anything kind about him? I mean, like, it's a 99-to-1 ratio in your public comments. So that's their rule. She and her daughters can tease him mercilessly, and he is not allowed to say anything about becoming over there on the other side of the couch. Only compliments allowed. Only praise. And by the way, I got a tip for you. Pro tip, Barack. It'll never be.
Barack Obama's legacy is like a designer suit 3 sizes too big. Looks good on the hanger, but try putting it on in reality, and suddenly, it's all sleeves and no substance. Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly weren't just pointing it out. They were hosting a full-on runway show of every misplaced button, fake stitch, and ego embroidery this guy sewed into his...
We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment.
What's that pitter-patter sound I'm hearing in the background? It's the footsteps of Barack running to vote for Trump.
Greg kicked it off with his usual surgical smirk, poking at the Nobel Peace Prize Obama accepted before even completing his first term. It's hard to be awarded for peace while launching drone strikes like his in a Call of Duty tournament, without parental supervision. Nothing says hope and change like raining missiles over wedding parties and calling it foreign policy.
President Obama's farewell speech soared, towered, dragged. True, it was longer than Reagan's, Clinton's, and GWB's speeches combined. If it got any longer, it would have qualified as a third term. I hope he doesn't ask for anything.
I do have one final ask of you as your president. The same thing I asked you when you took a chance on me 8 years ago.
Megyn didn't even blink. She went straight for the Messiah complex, dissecting the man's obsession with hearing himself talk. 8 years of press conferences that felt like audition tapes for a TED Talk, only to realize the takeaway was always the same. I'm smart, you're not, and everything's your fault. You could drown in self-congratulation.
Amazing. Every word she says about Barack Obama is negative. I can't think of her sitting there just waxing poetic about him, complimenting, he's brilliant, he's a great dad, he was the greatest president, whatever a normal wife of Barack Obama would say. Every time she opines, it's something that reflects poorly on him, how he's insensitive, how he's not a talker, how he doesn't know how to relate to people, he doesn't keep the same schedule as she does, and now we're talking about you can have a bad decade in America.
Gutfeld, never one to miss a juicy contradiction, pointed out the economic recovery that somehow skipped middle America. Obama inherited a mess, sure, but under his watch, Wall Street got stimulus packages, while regular folks got eviction notices and cheerful lectures about grit. His version of rebuilding the economy was like painting racing stripes on a car with no engine, stylish, useless.
So let's analyze. He says Fox goes out of its way to locate and then demonize the poor. For what reason? So we can kill and eat them? His criticism is absurd because he never suggests a motive. FNC is always focused on policies that keep the poor poor, not the poor themselves. And that's scary to progressives like Obama who fear that their ideology will be exposed as the culprit behind so much present misery.
Then came the Affordable Care Act, a bureaucratic boondoggle dressed up in buzzwords. Kelly highlighted the glorious irony of calling something affordable while premiums ballooned and networks shrank. You know a plan's in trouble when even the website crashes out of protest. Remember healthcare. Gov? It loaded slower than his speeches, and that's saying something. Greg zoomed in on the foreign policy mixtape, Libya, Syria, the infamous red line in the sand that turned out to be written in dry erase marker. Gaddafi out, chaos in, Syria spiraling. Assad still comfortably in place. The only consistent part was the complete inconsistency. Megyn chimed in. It was like he bought a GPS with no signal, confidently turning left straight into a ditch. But let's not forget the media, Obama's one true love. The coverage during his presidency could only be described as fan fiction, with better lighting. Gutfeld lit the place up with one of his best lines. Obama didn't drain the swamp, he threw it at a dinner party. Trillions spent. A revolving door of insiders cashing in. And yet, the man still positioned himself as the outsider, the underdog. How do you spend 8 years in the Oval Office and still act like you're the freshman fighting the establishment?
Well, Obama's still at it. And in this particular soundbite, she's got thoughts on relationships. Listen here.
Relationships are long and there are also ebbs and flows, right? So I think sometimes people who date don't realize that, you know, in long-term relationships, you're gonna have deep dips and you're gonna have
a bad year.
You're gonna have I tell people, and folks think that this is harsh, it's like you're gonna have a bad decade.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been married to my husband for 30 plus years. I mean, the truth is, if you add it all up, even the year, if the odds were you're gonna be married to your partner for 50 years, and 10 of those years could...
That quietly festered under his reign. He had a unique position to bring Americans together. Instead, he often weighed in selectively, stoking tension, not unity. He had the platform to lead hearts and minds, but too often used it to lecture from a moral high horse built entirely out of straw men. And his post-presidency? A masterclass in passive-aggressive relevance. While most presidents fade into graceful retirement, Obama went on a world tour of veiled jabs, Netflix deals, and suspiciously timed statements. Gutfeld compared him to a prom king, who graduated 10 years ago but keeps showing up to give advice nobody asked for. And the advice? Always pointing fingers while pretending his hands are clean. Gutfeld grinned as he described the Obama files, those wide-eyed followers who still hang on to his every metaphor like it's the gospel. They don't question the record. They just frame the poster. He left office years ago, but to them, he's still the one. Like a political ex you refuse to block on social media because you're emotionally invested in nostalgia.
Obama's last tweet from Saturday, which is the day this had unleashed it when it started overnight Friday, was, for decades, Narges Mohammadi has been a vocal advocate for women and girls in Iran. This Nobel Prize is a well-deserved recognition of her courage and the hope that she represents not only for women in Iran, but women fighting repression and violence around the world. How about the women who actually were the victim of repression and violence in Israel? No words for them. Former President Obama, nothing to say about the children being murdered in Israel. So far, I guess he couldn't find time to actually use his little thumbs and tweet something.
Megyn pointed out that while he spoke of dignity and decency, his party machine under him weaponized agencies, sowed seeds of division, and built a cancel culture empire out of identity politics and smug elitism. It's a beautiful paradox, using unity speeches to divide people better. Greg rushed in to challenge the grand illusion, the myth that everything was perfect from 2008 to 2016. The economy? Sluggish. The military? Drained. Global respect? An illusion, held together by photo ops and foreign apologies. He was the guy who showed up to a construction site with blueprints, gave a speech, took a selfie, and left, while others cleaned up the rubble. And how could anyone forget the infamous Legacy Tour, where Obama tried to rewrite history before it had time to settle? Megyn called it a one-man parade with no crowd, just confetti cannons and an echo chamber. He didn't want a legacy. He wanted a monument. The man tried to sculpt Mount Rushmore with a selfie stick. Greg then dove into the irony Olympics, how the so-called transparency president ran one of the most secretive administrations in recent memory. He weaponized bureaucracy with a velvet glove, said one thing, did another, and managed to keep a straight face while entire departments ghosted congressional subpoenas like Tinder dates gone wrong. Speaking of Barack
Obama, he decided to drop a post on X today, and I thought, okay, maybe in the wake of the Pete Hegseth presser, he's going to say something like, no matter how you feel about the Iranian strike, hats off to our, boys in blue, our guys in the bombers. He went a different way. This is what it was.
Thinking about this eulogy specifically in the moment and all the tensions that you just brought out.
I didn't even want to talk. I was so mad. Part of the reason I think I ended up having anything to say at that moment was when I heard some of the victims' families forgive the shooter. And I thought, all right, let's see if maybe this is a way America can heal.
Megyn didn't hold back when discussing education under Obama. Common Core was supposed to standardize excellence, but somehow managed to confuse parents, frustrate students, and make math look like a conspiracy theory. And let's not forget the student loan explosion, where young Americans were buried under debt while universities inflated tuition like they were printing monopoly money. Turns out, people like jobs more than poetic symbolism. Megyn wrapped it in a bow by highlighting the contrast between perception and performance. He gave America a brand, but not a product. His presidency was a masterclass in selling hope without inventory. He lit candles while the power grid failed. He played jazz while the ship hit the iceberg. And still, in every interview, he carries the same posture. Head tilted just enough to show he's listening, chin up just enough to show he's smarter than you.
A girlfriend comes to visit. It's usually like, you gotta stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much
2
time to
days
come to
check up. Now, Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's like, y'all still talking? He'll sit down for 5 minutes, be like, how are the flip side
I don't
of my
understand.
husband, right? Because he golfs. And golfing takes as long as the first session of our, it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back, and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Gutfeld quipped that if smugness were a fuel source, Obama could single-handedly power California through another blackout. Then there's the legacy of division, disguised as compassion. Under Obama, disagreeing meant being labeled. Criticism wasn't answered, it was dismissed. Opposition wasn't debated, it was demonized. He didn't change the game. He just changed the jerseys, rigged the scoreboard, and somehow convinced the crowd he was playing fair. Greg ended with a sledgehammer. If Obama was a genius, then mediocrity just got redefined. The truth is, he was a master of illusion. A walking, talking, teleprompting contradiction. Charisma without courage. Style over substance. And this is just scratching the surface. There's more to dig through. More myths to melt. More polished narratives to unravel. Because when it comes to Barack Obama, the deeper you go, the more you realize it was all one big, overproduced, underdelivered political trailer.
President Obama took another stand against evil yesterday, lashing out at ISIS, pernicious gang crime and human rights abuses in left-wing dictatorships like Venezuela and Cuba. I was kidding. He went after Fox News again.
I think the effort to suggest that the poor are sponges, leeches, don't want to work, are lazy, are undeserving, got traction. And look, it's still being propagated. I mean, I have to say that, if you watch Fox News on a regular basis, it is a constant menu. They will find, folks who make me.
Barack Obama's post-presidency tour has been less of a statesman's encore and more of a world lecture series no one asked for, complete with a moral compass spinning like a toy in a Cracker Jack box. And while he preaches about climate responsibility from private jets and oceanside villas, Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly are there, holding up the receipts like annoyed accountants during an IRS audit. Megyn isn't buying the recycled hope slogans, and Gutfeld's rolling his eyes so hard he might sprain a brow muscle. The absurdity of Obama talking about wealth inequality while raking in multimillion-dollar deals for speeches that say everything and absolutely nothing is the kind of irony that practically writes itself. Gutfeld compares it to a magician pulling rabbits out of hats, except the magician is lecturing the audience on economic disparity while charging $500 per seat, and the rabbits are sponsored by Netflix. Then there are the conveniently curated interviews, where every question is softer than a therapy dog's pillow. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly is over here laughing, asking when exactly hard-hitting journalism got replaced with nostalgic fanfiction. Obama's image is being wrapped in so many layers of PR fluff. It's less public servant and more gluten-free political marshmallow.
There's two weird things about this.
Why is, okay, weird, it's weird Obama's doing this while all this other stuff is going on.
Right.
Like, shouldn't he be helping out Joe?
Right.
Like, he totally ghosts Joe. I always say that he's like the guy, whenever you go to a party with somebody that you don't like and you try to lose them at the party, that's what Obama has done to Joe. He's lost them at the party, and now he's moving on, and then he tweets, and then you find out that he's tweeting about something.
If we do not do at least one clip from the Barack Michelle Obama appearance, the podcast, because everybody thinks they're getting a divorce.
Greg pokes fun at the sudden transformation of Obama into America's unofficial influencer, casually inserting himself into every trending issue, somehow always managing to say something profound that also manages to mean absolutely nothing. It's as if he discovered the art of saying, "Let's all do better," with the smugness of someone who thinks they invented common sense. Megyn takes it a step further, pointing out how the same guy who once championed transparency now hides behind a curated media wall, thicker than a bunker. And while he subtly inserts himself into today's issues, they didn't stop at the foreign policy buffet. No, they hit domestic policy too, laughing at the economic fairy tale spun during press briefings that felt more like Hollywood auditions. It was less presidential and more theatrical, with enough dramatic pauses to make a soap opera blush. The takedown wasn't